Good morning to you from here to you, wherever you are. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. Yes, I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Where's here? From here.
Yeah, right here.
Well, here is Abuja in the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome. I'm Maukbe Ogun Yusuf.
And from Lagos, the nation's commercial nerve center. Good morning and welcome. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
And I'm Kaido Kikilu. It's great to have you. Let's start the day together, shall we?
Yes, indeed. We'll go to the dailies. I know we did ask people to give us or talk to us about their experiences concerning the old Naira notes in terms of what they face in the banks. And we have seen some reports. Our correspondent did go to town yesterday to, I'm sure you might have seen quite a number of them, but it continues today. The dailies highlight some of what people are going through, even though people also did call us personally to narrate the experiences to us, which we'll talk about as we progress. But if we just take a look at how the dailies, some of them are highlighting the experiences that you and I, as regular people, are going through with the banks and the old Naira notes. Take a look at Daily Trust, for instance. They lead with that sort of narrative, that theme on the front page of Daily Trust about the currency. CBN yet to release old notes to banks. That's the big one on the front page of Daily Trust this morning. So following up with that concerning, because I mean you had some persons who said that the banks, yes, they're able to collect some of the old notes, but they're not accepting deposits. And so
that has changed now, hasn't it?
But they said, as yesterday, they called me and said, look, what's going on? We thought that it's supposed to have changed, but it hasn't for a lot of people. And so we thought, there must be something wrong here. So it appears as to some that it's a Greek gift. And so that's the way it comes across. Well, yeah, so let's go ahead. Take a look at that Daily Trust now. CBN yet to release old notes to banks. Commercial banks struggle to meet customers' needs. Nigerians decry rejection by traders. So you see, what do traders actually want exactly? I don't know, man. And then look at this. Inject new notes to ease cash crunch. This is advice from experts. So I'm wondering what rationale would there be for traders to reject this?
I think that there needs to be an interview with, with the authorities, with the monetary authorities. There needs to be an explanation for what has happened so far, what their idea was in terms of the implementation of this process, and what is currently happening. Because, yes, a lot of people have lauded the fact that cashless is desirable for a country such as Nigeria. And I'm sure that the CBN would only have injected so much into the system because of what they're trying to, achieve. But looking at where we currently are, looking at the difficulties that have come as a result of this policy, perhaps by now they will have a clearer picture of what exactly has happened and, what they're looking to do right now so that maybe we can help them. I'm as confused as the average Nigerian, as to what exactly is happening. Why is it that people can get a hold of cash? I'm not talking, right now, a number of headlines will reflect different stories, and part of what we're hearing is that the CBN has maintained, I think, withdrawal or deposit limits, that it initially had, which is not a bad thing. But when you cannot even get a hold there's a lot of suspicion around the old notes. So what exactly was supposed to happen with the new notes? This, as I said before, this is not the first time we have changed currency. Why is this particular situation peculiar?
Well, if the traders are rejecting old notes as reported by Daily Trust, perhaps you don't remember CBN officials went to the markets at the time trying to convince people that the old notes were no longer going to be in use. They needed to continue with the new one, that yes, it was indeed new and it wasn't fake, and it's trying to explain the rationale, the policy. Perhaps the bankers are also, the traders might also be waiting, saying, no, wait a minute, they came to us the last time.
Why haven't they come to us this time?
If it's going to change, they should come back to us.
Indeed.
So finish what you started.
They will be right, because there needs to be a lot of education. As we said earlier, it's not enough for the Supreme Court to say. There needs to be that spread of the message as to what exactly is now the norm, what is expected. And we would think that when we take old notes to the bank, because we know we now have leeway, but more new notes should be in circulation than the old notes. And
because the challenge would be, if this doesn't happen, chances are that if the banks or any of such officials were to go back to them again in the future for something else, they might just take it with a pinch of salt. So there has to be that consistency in messaging such that people can indeed reckon with those messages, or else it will just turn to what we call channel noise in communication or broadcasting specifically. And then you could also see this above this lead story. Governorship polls, INEC completes BVAS reconfiguration, begins deployments. So what happens to Labour Party? I mean, they had said that they wanted to inspect them, they were supposed to do certain things, so who knows what
we
becomes
could get a
of all
report
that.
from Labour Party in terms of whether they have been able to, because INEC had a meeting with them 2 days ago.
Okay.
I think the lawyer for Mr. Peter Obi and Labour Party said that, they wanted to be able to go away with the reports that day.
Oh.
The INEC chairman said they had nothing to hide and that they were willing to give them what they had at the headquarters. So whether they were able to get a hold of it that same day, I don't know, but they also said that for the ones at the local government or at the state level, they will have to create a schedule. So there needs to be an update as to what exactly has happened with accessing the materials that were used for the presidential elections.
At least we didn't hear them say they requested to go away with at least one BVAS.
No, we didn't hear that.
They didn't trust this word anyway.
Well, let's take a look at leadership for you this morning. They're also focusing heavily on leadership this morning. Bank e-payment glitches continue. That's a lead story, despite soaring transaction volumes. So yes, the NIBSS, I think they reported this a few days ago as well, saying that they have noticed that indeed transactions have increased online, but so have the glitches that customers are also reporting. And I think there needs to be some education of customers as well. I mean, just yesterday, my poor dad was telling me that, I didn't know I was supposed to keep the receipts of declined transactions.
Oh, dear.
And I've been debited. I'm like, well, yes, you're supposed to. So go to your bank and go and reconcile those particular payments. But, that education needs to continue. Page 4 is where you find details of the elite story there. Experts blame policy failure on hasty approach as banks pay out old Naira notes. Queues persist nationwide. So they have pictures of the queues that they have taken in different parts of the country. You see customers at the entrance of some commercial banks, even after CBN's directive on compliance with the Supreme Court judgment restoring old currencies as legal tender till December the 31st. So it's still a lead story on all the front pages, or at least most of them, this morning. Look at this, Naira redesign. You can't absolve yourself of blame, CSOs tell PMB. Well, maybe that's what he was trying to do with that statement, which he released through his spokesperson, but the CSOs are having none of it. And this is exactly what they're telling the president. You cannot remove yourself from what has happened with the difficulties that Nigerians are currently experiencing. Page 7 is where you find details. You have a number of other stories just beside the pictures you see there. 2023 elections, Nigeria's cyberspace survived 12 million attacks, as attributed to Bantami on the nameplate health sector. Pharmacists present demands to Tinubu. Oshibajo launches $600 million program for youths in tech creative industry. Page 6 is where you find details. Let's leave it there for leadership newspapers.
And flip to the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper also follows up on the monetary concern, the national concern that Nigeria currently has right now. And this is how it is captioned. Slow compliance despite CBN order. Banks ration old notes. Let's take a look at the riders. Business owners, traders defy CBN. Reject old 500, 1,000 Naira. CBN silent on returned banknotes. Warehoused cash. Residual notes amount to drop in ocean. Analysts insist NIBSS e-payment recorded series of failed transactions in February. Huriwa charges CBN to disburse old new notes to banks. Now, besides the education, the need for education on, the CBN's current position that the old currencies are now legal tender, there needs to be an explanation, particularly on the part of the federal government. During that all-important broadcast when the president initially announced that the 200 naira notes are the only ones that the CBN can release. The president cited the need to check kidnapping, security concerns, the need to rein in on inflation, check corruption. So what?
Well, have we been able to achieve those goals?
Besides that, what's different now that the federal government says the CBN has no reason not to comply? And the operative word, as Malpa said yesterday, was no reason. The CBN has no reason to comply. So what's different in between February the 25th and now?
So we need to understand why it looked like the Supreme Court gave that final judgment on, was it the 3rd?
3rd.
It was the 3rd, right?
Yeah.
The 3rd of February.
The final judgment was 3rd of March.
Right? 3rd of March, and it took almost 10 days or more to get something from, let's say the CBN now, and then the federal government. So lots of questions. Yes, we need to know what exactly went on. I think this is a classic case of, honestly, I think it's a classic case of for the academics to understand. Because Nigerians were actually well behaved during this whole process. A lot of people were suffering, were going through a lot, and they still maintained decorum. Yes, we had pockets of issues. They said those people didn't even have bank accounts. But really, we need to actually analyze what we just went through, in these 2 months.
Besides that, if the CBN can now comply, has no reason not to comply, why is there still partial compliance? Why are the banks disbursing the old notes but not accepting the old notes? So there needs to be a lot of explanation.
Absolutely.
As to all of these concerns. Just before we exit the Guardian newspaper, let's look at just a few more stories going above the nameplates. Now, beneath the nameplates, rather, you'll find this one. Delta PDP Guba candidate escapes assassination. This is just one out of so many other security concerns in the run-up to the poll, and the DSS has issued some warnings, that, the major political parties are at daggers drawn and there are planned attacks. The security operatives must look into this ahead of the polls. Let's leave it there for the Guardian.
We'll take a look at Nigerian Tribune with this one. It's a focus on the coming elections. Governorship poll more complicated than presidential. NSA warns. Yeah, so that's the position. Says more people interested, more people to vote. Talks held with CDS IGP advises all rules must be complied with. Elections to hold in 1,021 constituencies. Political parties should caution their supporters. INEC boss. So the countdown continues, and it's important to actually understand what we're getting into so we're well prepared. All eyes will be on INEC as usual, security agencies, and we hope that we see an improvement. Page 5 has more details. I see rule of law. Over 20 anti-corruption CSOs, constitutional lawyers insist Bauer must step aside. That's another one brewing. And a couple of other stories on the front page. I'll just take this one for you. It's very important. Anxiety as FAO releases food security and nutrition assessment in 26 states. That's a topic that concerns all of us.
All of us.
Yeah. So more details.
I wonder what the outcome of that assessment will be.
Absolutely. I'm jumping right into it.
Will it be related to multidimensional poverty?
Exactly. That's the Nigerian Tribune.
Well, take a look at Vanguard. 3 days to polls, intrigues as governors, others intensify battle for states. So you see the riders, you can check them out much later. And then the images of governors there. Governor Abiodun trying to come back for a second term. Same with Sanwo-Olu. Governor Manuel on his way out, trying to get a successor to come in. Governor El-Rufai on his way out as well. Makinde trying to come back for a second term. Governor Kwazu lost out his senatorial bid in Abia, tentative statements for the people. But look at this, beneath that picture, just needed to highlight that because one of the people had a different perspective. Respite as banks accept old 500 naira, 1,000 naira notes. Traders accept old notes. Transporters reject them. So because the other day they had said that traders were rejecting them, But now, I guess some traders now are accepting it, so who knows? But now, this perspective of transporters rejecting them, I think is a newer perspective. So that is it with
I was struggling, somebody said, you mean these notes that I bought with my money? I will, I will pay them somewhere and somebody will give me old notes as change.
There you go. And by the way, the name too, the story of the name came up yesterday. We're done with Vanguard now. Where they were saying Nigerians needed to pay 1,000 naira.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, what is going on?
Yeah.
That name, look, they didn't ask you to go verify them. Why charge them? Is there a fake name? For instance, what is all this going on
verification.
here? Oh,
I don't know what it is, but I think it was supposed to help increase the speed. Increase the speed for the verification process. Yes.
The 1,000 naira will increase the speed.
I don't know how.
Oh.
That's what the story seemed to be trying to say when I read it. Something about increasing the efficiency. Because whether or not you like it, James, a few things that we take for granted or we should be able to take for granted, they cost money. And this money must come from somewhere.
Government already made, they put in systems in the place.
So
how is paying 1,000 naira will make you go and do the job?
That's something we certainly should ask. What exactly is this 1,000 naira supposed to do? How does it increase the speed? How does it increase the efficiency? How does it increase the service? Because they've been talking about how people have been having difficulty verifying, their NIN. I don't know.
That was created deliberately.
If you have experienced it, let us know. And if you've had to pay the 1,000 naira, tell us if it helped increase efficiency in any way.
I've not paid, but I'll tell you that I don't want to pay.
Timberlane, it's 1,000 naira.
Yeah, but how do we know this wasn't created deliberately to ensure you validate this 1,000 naira that you're going to be charging people? Are you not technically trying to legitimize this kickback through the back door, 1,000 and make it faster? Then tomorrow it becomes 2,000 naira, and then from there. Anyways, let's go ahead and bring in our first guest this morning, Mr. Mikey Guinea. He joins us virtually. It's 3 days to the polls, as the dailies have highlighted, so we're just trying to keep tabs while we go down memory lane. We'll also preview what to expect. So Mr. Mikey Guinea joins us virtually this morning to talk to us about his perspectives on what has transpired and probably what to expect. Good morning, Mr. Guinea. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you, Chamberlain and Mark, for having me.
Yes, I was just going to say, it's good to see you once again.
Lots of people did look forward to the elections, to the extent that when we spoke with some political parties, they even thought that, which was a bit odd hearing it, because politicians, all they can, sometimes they can what they can and sit on the can, but in this case, they relied a lot on INEC and trusted their capacity and their intentions to go ahead and use the BVAS, upload the results, as they had said severally. But alas, it came through and it wasn't what many expected. So several feelings of a lot of people who are disappointed. But you, from your perspective, if you could give us a bird's eye view of what you thought might have transpired, where does this leave us now?
Thank you, Chamberlain, and good morning, Nigerians. Yes, this is my first engagement with Channel Television after almost 1 year that the CEO of Channel Television, your humble self, and all management of Channel Television, for 1 year, we campaigned on the basis of the 2022 Electoral Act, INEC processes and procedure to bring about a credible election in our country. As you all know, for over 30 years, I have been on this path. My votary has already been for due process. And after the first election, I have not spoken to anybody until yesterday and today. I have received over 2,500 messages, or making inquiry from those within our country here and those from abroad, asking me so many questions. But just one major question. bordering on the fact that I campaigned on the beavers. I spoke about process and procedure. They are very right. It is true that I said everything on the basis of the law as contained in Section 60, Section 64, Clause 38, the basic ABC of the process. I spoke on all of that. So I did that without being paid. And so the question people have been asking me, how come the election that attracted the highest attention in our history, that on that day, Mr. Igini, what you said did not happen with respect to the presidential election. Now, that I have not spoken for this long was because I also needed an answer. For the information of everybody out there, I left INEC since August last year. I had opportunity, Chamberlain, to accept the numerous consultancy offers from politicians in our country. But I said no. Having been part of a team that designed this process, that the best thing is to remain neutral. After all, if I'm to accept those consultancy proposals, what I was never given as a severance package, which is just 5 million naira, I would have got that 10 times. And Chamberlain will on that matter. The issue relating to non-upload of the presidential election results have now overshadowed every other positives of the beavers that remain a game changer. So Chamberlain, on why that did not happen, like any other Nigerians, and many who have written a message to me, I said, my education ended on the 24th of February. But that the issue about why that one did not happen, it should be the commission. I was not part of the implementation. It is those who are there that should answer, because good laws, innovations are not self-executory. I said that over and over again. It requires people to do so. So that's in respect to that. And right now, those matters are now before the court, the judiciary. So it is the judiciary that to now, because it has subject this as a lawyer, I cannot delve into that. But Nigerians know me, that when it matters most, I will speak on any subject matter, because I fought for democracy.
Yeah, but Mr. Guinea, the thing about this is, yes, those issues might be in the courts, but in terms of when the kind of explanations that the commission has given and then the answers that you were seeking, so could you tell us whether or not, well, if you're satisfied or you got the answers that you were seeking, because everybody saw what transpired. So what can you say about that?
Chamberlain, as I'm saying that, up to this moment, I don't even have the answer.
Oh.
I don't have the answer to that. It is the commission that should answer that question. Unfortunately, somehow, they will also be circumscribed at this point in time because people are now already in the tribunal.
Okay.
It is not the judiciary. As I've said over, people can go and check the interview we had with Channel Television, that as we're narrowing down, that 3 agencies are key out of the 6 that I identified for a successful election, which is a multi-sectoral responsibility. I mentioned the commission that we have to be on the driver's seat and remain on the driver's seat as the only body saddled with the constitutional responsibility to midwife democratic competition in our country. Number two, that the security, very key, and that the third is the judiciary, and that the trinity of these three institutions will determine whether the institution representing democracy will have a hopeful future in our country.
You were going to make a point about people now having some sort of impression, even about the beavers, because the beavers is on one hand, and then uploading the result is another. So many are lumping all of their experiences, and I think you were trying to say that they're tentatively throwing away the baby with the bathwater.
Absolutely, Chamberlain. Understandably, because the presidential election was the most coveted election that people really, those who came from outside the country, if I'm to share the messages, there are those who say they came from Malta, from Canada, from Australia, and that the only reason that brought them back to Nigeria was, Mr. Igini, you educated on this, and that some of them did not even vote because of the activity of extra-constitutional actors that prevented them from voting. Now, that point we're making is that the beavers, because of what happened, so people that have overshadowed the huge positives, understandably, that the beavers has brought. And so there's a need, Chamberlain, to separate the beavers, and failure to use it. There are two things that must be separated. It is not true that the beavers has failed. As a matter of fact, Chamberlain, on account of the fact that I have not got the explanation why what happened, I didn't want to speak on this matter. And because I am now hearing Nigerians are sending messages that they are not going to participate in the forthcoming governorship election. It was the reason why I said no, because of the following thing about the beavers. Before the beavers, I'm going to share some table with you today what the beavers have done that we campaign on. Remember that my campaign was based on the fact that the beavers have been used and the upload for 105 elections. Edo governorship election, Anambra, Okiti, Osun, all that were used. So it's not something that is new. Now, were it not for the beavers, all those who have been posting figures in the previous election without beavers, did any candidate produce millions from his own state? It didn't happen. If not for beavers, who would have known that an Okada rider that does not have a godfather could win an election? If not for the beavers, like I told everyone, that the National Assembly, the Senate, cannot be a retirement home, that with the beavers coming, it will not be an automatic retirement home for governors who have spent their final term, who don't have the right to contest for central election, which before the era of beavers becomes automatic. We can now see that this National Assembly cannot just be an automatic retirement home for governors. Beavers, Chamberlain, has brought sanity to the polling unit where before now, at the end of the poll, Chamberlain, there's an organized crime they call sharing of unused ballots. Beavers, that fraudulent practice from Zamfara, from Abia State to Zamfara, by way of alphabetical order, beavers have put an end to the sharing by party agents in connivance with poll officials of the what we call unused ballots.
Mr. Gini, I imagine that we want to get to the graph now so that we can
right.
Ask other questions.
So you can go, I'm going to show to you, go to the first data. And I said I'm going to use 3 local governments from 3 senatorial district of Delta State, and I'm doing a comprehensive compilation at the moment from Abia down to Zamfara. Now, in Delta, before the era of the beavers, when they disabled car reader, okay, not this one, let me speak to the first one, about how beavers have now ensured that there's a realistic figure rather than all those moonslide, landslide, all those big figures you to hear about. Remember that I said before the election that there are no inheritable votes anymore, because I heard people saying, oh, 12 million votes this way, 8 million votes. Where are those votes now? In Delta, for instance, I'm an honorable man. I picked a local government from Ethiopia West. In 2019, they posted over 40-something thousand from Ethiopia West. But in this 2023 election, it was just 5,000 because of the beavers, nobody could bring in any right figures anymore. In Delta North, same thing happened. In Warri Southwest, that produced 139,000 plus in 2019. Mount, you are used to those areas. In this election, they only produced 3,000 plus. That is because of the beavers. Now, the next table that you have there is to show to Nigeria ahead, because the problem we have now, everything we've been doing is to ensure that those who win election are determined finally and conclusively at the polling unit. And of course, at the last point of coalition, without having to go to court. That tribunal, the court should not be the final determination of who govern in our country. Because where we are today, after INEC, we have to go to tribunal. So that table you try to bring up, put it up there. The idea is that as I speak to you, since I came to the commission for over 10 years, I have been saying on my experience in what happened in Imo State in 2011 and 2015, because the Imo State, those two elections, I have only been the one to complete the governorship election, where I discovered, which is general in the country, that returning officer, Mountware, they do not know how to even interpret, because there's no document that show that to be declared a governor in each state, what requirement of 2/3, how many local governments do you need to score 25%? Now, the table you are having here, only 12 states in Nigeria that have what you call even number. But yes, let's look at that, the one that have even number. Only 12 states. Jigawa, for instance, it has 27 local governments. Imo State has 27 local governments. 2/3 of 27 gives you 18. It gives you 18. So we have no problem with that. But now go to the next table. And before the presidential election, 2 weeks before that time, just as I did in 2019, I reminded and I forwarded, made it public, that a returning officer will be guided to make a return. Because what happened is that if you put out that table right now, there are several states that have what you call, when you compute 2/3, it does not give you an even number. My worry was because of what happened in 1979. And I said there was need, because once returning officers are not guided, politicians are going to give them money to say, just declare me the winner, let people go to court. We must end the business of tribunal in our country. So that table, if you look at that table, Abia State has, this is the first time I'm now providing the approximation. I've not done this approximation anywhere, because I wanted the commission to speak to that. And that's why I said we must defer to the commission to come up with that, so that, like in America, to be a president in the United States of America, of the 538 delegate votes, you need to score 170. Then, of course, you 7-0, you will now be declared the winner. Now, if you look at this table, Kano State, it has what you call 44 local governments. 2/3 of 44, it gives you 29.3. Now, the question now is, can you fractionalize a local government to say that you need to score 29.5 local government? You cannot fractionalize a local government. Therefore, are we taking the upper limit or lower limit? Those of you who are good in mathematics, I mean, the simple procedure is that if it's less than 5, if we're less than 0.5, you can approximate down. That is why what you now have is 29. But at the moment, this figure on the last column, I am the one that provided this now. But if you interpret section 179, subsection 2, it gives you all this uneven number. So on election day, a returning officer, some of these professors and all that, when you are confronted with this as what happened in Imo in 2011 and 2015, where I took charge of governorship election in Imo, combined it with my state where I worked, I could not be pushed around. Of course, the people didn't know what was going on.
Mr. Guinea, if I may come in now, yes, we see the numbers that you're providing. I think it's quite helpful. I mean, we just imagined that it was going to be, how do I put it now? It was always going to be the upper limit that they will take whenever it is. But I see that there is a mathematical, will I say, method to how the limits are, arrived at. But I want to ask you, because I think we asked you the initial question about IREV. You have been able to differentiate between the BVAS and the IREV, and to say that, you two are also awaiting explanations on what happened with the IREV. I take it to mean that the explanation which INEC provided the following day, that's on the Sunday, was certainly not sufficient for you.
Mark, if that explanation is sufficient, people will not be asking the question. As a matter of fact, this is when one of your colleagues, William Moore of Stanford University, he said, with the credo of the media, is the people right to know. This is where investigative journalists have to come in. And that's why I said, Guinea, who provided freely at my own time in service of our country, I did that without being paid. Channel television did not charge anybody. If INEC or the country were to pay channel television, Arise, TVC, AIT, they would have known how it would have cost them to be spending 1 hour airtime. If that explanation, that came very late in the evening, had been helpful, will not be where we are. Furthermore, I must say this here, that, to destroy, it is easier to destroy than to build. I spent 10 years in INEC. One of the things that I see going wrong right now is the failure to give explanation as quickly as possible, even to some of the things that are not true we said about the commission.
All right. So let's...
One of which is that in the last 1 week, there have been a story about one Femi Orebiyi, somebody like that is now said to be a former commissioner in Lagos, now the head of ICT of the commission. That is not true. I expect that the commission should come out quickly to say that what is being attributed to Olabode George, it is not true, because the director of ICT is Paul Omokare. He is not, the person they are talking about is not in INEC.
Just say quickly, I have seen that, INEC has issued a statement. I saw it on their Twitter handle, very early this morning. I didn't take note of when it was posted, but just to say that I did see a statement of them saying that that particular statement was not true.
For 2 weeks. It took about 2 weeks, Mark, but that's the problem, for over 2 weeks.
Well,
to do that.
It also means that Mr. Makari has to...
The public perception management is very important. We operate in an environment of distrust.
Yeah.
This is the problem we have. But
right,
there's a crisis of confidence and crisis of trust.
Yeah,
and for you to manage the public perception index, you have to be up and doing with response to information, response to the public.
Let's bring in our colleagues in Lagos. They've got more questions for you. Go ahead, guys.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. It's good to see that all of these things that have happened has not deterred Mr. Guinea from continuing with the voting evangelism that he's been doing, or do I call election evangelism. But I wonder, really, if it's possible to separate BVAS from IREV, because while BVAS, yes, you can do all the accreditation and all of that on BVAS, it is still the same BVAS that is used to upload results to the IREV. And I imagine some would think that the work of BVAS is not complete unless you're able to upload those results successfully onto the IREV, the right results from the polling units, that is. So I imagine that it will be tricky to really separate the BVAS from the IREV. But my question, Mr. Igini, is this, and I'm trying to be holistic here, because we're also preparing for another election, and we're hoping that it will be much better than what we saw in the past in terms of conduct and communication, all of that. Have we been able to, I don't know if you've really tried to look at what happened on February the 25th and afterwards. Would you say that all in all we've been able to design an electoral process that is manipulation proof, that is, ballot snatching proof? Because when we had the whole Electoral Act and all of that, we thought that we had gotten the silver bullet, but we still saw, some manipulations, people even uploading their pictures on the IREV, wrong polling unit results being uploaded, and all of the controversies that have surrounded this. Understanding the kind of environment we're in, we're still developing our democracy. So if you were to rate this design, this election design, how well would you say it's able to fit our reality, our peculiarity as Nigeria?
Coyote, the whole design of the BVAS was to take into account the reality, election day reality of Nigerians over the years. Particularly, you saw what happened with the corridor, how the corridor was sabotaged. Regrettably, the judiciary, which is my constituency, when the judiciary elevated ordinary analog hard copy register over and above a corridor that was designed to check the issue about one person, one vote, it became a tragedy. Now, Coyote, if you look at the BVAS, it was designed on account of all that we have witnessed 2011, 2015, and 2019. And that's why, for instance, with respect to uploads, it was designed that first, at every interval, without the prompts of the presiding officer, is supposed to be sending accreditation data to the central server. Remember that before now, we used to have separate period for accreditation, separate period for voting. We have now merged everything together so that on the 25th and the forthcoming election, you are going to do one accreditation, you'll be given 2 ballots, just as we're given 3 ballots. Number 2, because of the human agency, because of compromise, it was decided that we should have both online and offline. That is, if there was no network, you do offline. Now, on that day, to tell you the first benefit of the BVAS, with respect to the issue of the 25th February election, was that when people were not able to transmit the presidential, they now transmitted offline. That offline, by the time the server came up, because from all the reports, they said they were having server error with respect to the presidential. But when the thing now came up, all those offline uploaded, just like you switch off your telephone, you put it on, the messages will come. That is what we are now saying. So the first benefit of the BVAS, Coyote, was that there is now audit trail. There is now digital evidence of what happened in the 176,606 polling units. That would not have happened if we were using the old method. Now, as we speak, the email the image or the Form EC8A that were taken not only by INEC officials, not only the duplicate given to party agents, even by voters themselves. They all have that. That is why I am saying that Nigerians, don't give up. The ill of democracy can be cured by more democracy.
Well, Mr. Gay, that's understandable, but pardon me, I need to quickly make this point, that almost 3 weeks after that election, just 166,411 results have been uploaded out of the 176,846 which you mentioned. So that's 94%. And I don't know if the server is still down or if it's not up fully, whatever explanation it is, but clearly that role of the BVAS cannot be said to be successful yet. And I wonder, again, which is a point that has been made, why it is taking that long.
Good. I did not expect it to take this long. And that's the explanation that the commission need to give. But I need to make one very quick observation, which is true, not only in respect of this time, but all the times. And that is that kind of in some of the places where election did not take place, in places where it was cancelled, where the believers were not even used at all, where it did not take place, the commission needed to talk about communication. Communication. Because some of what they call outstanding are places where election were disrupted, where election did not take place. But the commission need to give the public information that, look, part of what is left, if that is the situation, this is what was responsible. That information, that absence of information is creating more crisis of confidence.
And if I may quickly come in there, Mr. Igini, your dissatisfaction with the Commission's explanation over the delay in uploading results to the IREV is evident. And based on that, the Labour Party has said that it's going to prove that indeed it won the election. So are you ruling out foul play? Can foul play be ruled out? And do you think that the Labour Party can prove overvoting or underreporting of votes when it heads to court?
You know, Bukola, you see, the reason why given where we are on this matter, that we have gone to court, is that if you took a responsibility to educate Nigerians over and over and over again, and here we are with what happened and confidence is low, you need to just say a few things within the limit of what you should be able to say, given that people are already in court over this matter. What is undeniable is that, of course, the Commission itself has also acknowledged that, is the fact that the presidential election result upload did not happen as promised, as contained in the law. Now, these are the issues that the judiciary, the tribunal, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, we have to deal with. In the best of our tradition, it is for me not to go extensively beyond what I have said with respect to that. My concern, as I told you, I could have kept quiet, but that would be disdainful of Nigerian people, that for over 30 years, people should not forget that I also spoke about Carida. I was everywhere. I was on Channel Television. It will be recorded that it was after my program with Sheun Okibaloye that the National Assembly had to invite the Commission under Professor Jega to come to the National Assembly on a Tuesday after a Sunday program where I was giving the ABC of the Carida. Now, Bukola, where we are right now, the matter is still very much alive. The judiciary will now have to stand tall and deal with the matter the way it should be dealt with to the satisfaction of Nigerian people.
Mr. Gini, very quickly now, what lessons should we learn from, the presidential election ahead of Saturday? Some have asked that why should INEC's server have been down and they didn't know? And then the challenge of internet broadband. What assurances do you think that INEC should be giving us in that regard ahead of Saturday?
It is for the commission to continue to speak, to engage with Nigerian people as to what it wants to do and keeping to those promises. For me, my message to the Nigerian people is that if you had not participated in the last election, and the fact that today you have the result, it would not have happened. Please go out on Saturday, because the forthcoming election is even more important, because those are local elections. Who will be your governor? Who will be your members of House of Assembly? These are, in fact, I can tell you, Bukola, the forthcoming election, I have my worry more for that election, because it's going to be more challenging than the presidential election, given the desperation. I mean, you just saw in your paper review how a governorship candidate in my state escaped assassination yesterday. The desperation is going to be high.
Right.
The security have to be up and doing. So they should go out on that day, please, and please, beyond the party agents. Please, citizens, take a picture of the result in each polling unit. It should be noted that where beavers were not used, there will be everything there will be cancelled. Some provision that I've never mentioned before. I'm preparing my letter to the President of the Court of Appeal. There are some provisions which I have told people over the years that I will never mention. Now is the time. I will send that letter to the President of the Court of Appeal to specifically bring to the attention of the judges certain provisions that are contained in the Act that we deliberately, for the good of our country, put in there as a shield. Now it will work as a sword against any and all who have done something to undermine the integrity of the electoral process.
Well, Mr. Gini, clearly the coming days will be very interesting, but would like to thank you so much for your time on the program this morning. We've been speaking with Mr. Mike Igini, who was a resident electoral commissioner in INEC for Akwa Ibom State, and some might even call him a voting evangelist. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day.
Welcome back. Well, both of them join us this morning to talk about their candidacy. Muhammad Jajari is the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party. He joins us here in the studios. And then we've got Umar Alkali, who is the candidate for the NNPP, who joins us from our studios in Maiduguri. Gentlemen, good morning and thank you for coming on today. But let me start with Mr. Alkali in our studios in Maiduguri. Yes, indeed, it's this weekend that we will have the governorship elections. But if you could talk to us about your campaign and the atmosphere in the state now, is it conducive for campaigns? Because previously we had some reports making the round. So what can you tell us about how the atmosphere is at the moment?
Thank you very much, somebody, for having me, and good morning, Nigerians.
Mr. Akali, that's for you.
Thank you very much, somebody, for having me. Thank you very much, somebody, for having me. Good morning, Nigerians. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? Hello? Hello?
Okay, yeah, okay, I think you just heard a bit about it. Could you go ahead, please?
Yeah, good morning, Chamberlain.
Morning. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good morning, Nigerians. Are you hearing me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
I'm not hearing you.
We can hear you here, but if you can, okay, well, can you now?
Okay. Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you now.
All right.
Good morning. Thank you very much, somebody, for having me. Good morning, Nigerians. Actually, the election, the atmosphere of the election in the state is relatively conducive. We've gone around the whole 27 local governments in the state, and we have had our campaigns. And we believe that this week election is going to be more fair than the last election we had. Honestly, there's no problem, and we are very much prepared for it, inshallah.
Okay, so at the moment, we've seen, because a yardstick that lots of people reference is the last elections, the presidential and National Assembly elections. And so, given the performance of your party in the state, do you think you stand a chance? Because I know they say the dynamics will be different on Saturday.
Yeah, honestly, I stand a better chance to win the election, inshallah. The problem we had in the last election is because the actual results of the election has not actually been presented to the public, because in realistic, the election is marred by an absolute rigging, marred by corruption, and yeah, I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me, Chamberlain?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, the last election actually is being marred by corruption and massive rigging by the All Progressive People's Congress.
Okay, I think it's...
Yeah, I hear you. I'm hearing you.
All right, we'll just take a moment, see if we can sort that out. But let me just try again. Hopefully it's been sorted. Could you tell us, why do you want to be governor?
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. Yeah.
Okay, so I think there's some feedback coming to get into him. So we'll just try that connection again and sort it out. Come back to him. Let me come to you, Mr. Jijari. Yes, indeed, your candidacy, because you also did make reference to how the elections panned out, the presidential elections, how it wasn't straightforward, there were manipulations. Why is that a thing? Because you seem to be on the same page with the NPP candidates. So is that right?
Thank you for having me. Yes, it is right. The election, there was a lot of irregularities where some people voted without going through the accreditation process. No viewers in many places, vote buying openly, and intimidation. So the election, particularly in Borno State, is far from free and fair.
So that suggests that your party will be looking out for that. But we have heard comments from the ruling party saying that you, in the manner of speaking, a paperweight. They don't consider you a serious contender in these elections and that you don't stand any chance.
What is the criteria to be considered a serious candidate? I have been going around all over doing campaign. Even as of just recently, yesterday, I was still out campaigning. Though our president was not declared the winner, I was still going out, telling people that they should come out still. Do not lose confidence. Do not lose hope. Do not lose faith. Come out and vote.
So, why do you think you stand a chance on Saturday?
People are completely out of disenchanted with the governing party in the state. They're completely out of touch with the people. So people need change. People need change. The civil service, the security, the farmers, there are so many multiple taxation and so many other reasons why people are not happy with APC in Borno State.
Well, Borno State is an interesting state in terms of, what it has been through in the last couple of years. The insurgency has dealt it a fatal blow, and we've been saying that, efforts, has been more in that direction to try and bring the state back to normalcy, clearing of areas hitherto held by insurgents and making sure that, the IDP camps are emptied and people are able to go back to their communities. So it is very interesting to see. It will be very interesting to see just how the people of the state decide that the government of the day has been able to do that. But what precisely are you going to be doing differently, especially by those who are, trying to settle back into their lives, and, trying to get back their lives, and also, preventing perhaps a resurgence? Because we also saw that even on election day, there were attempts to disrupt the elections by Boko Haram elements. It shows that the threat is not over. So what are you going to do differently to ensure that lives and property are protected, and for those who have gone back to their communities, they can actually start a new life all over again?
First and foremost, we will work closely with our elders, traditional rulers, community leaders, and work closely with the federal government. As you know, the issue of security is a national problem, and it's not mostly sorted out by the state government alone. Thousands, if not millions, still are in IDP camps. If someone tells you that people are resettled in their communities in Maiduguri, it's far from truth. Maybe some percentages are now settling in one or two localities, but the average, or I should say the majority of people, are still living in different IDP camps.
This is a situation that worries you, the fact that majority of people are still in IDP camps?
They are. I mean, they are living by themselves. They're uncatered for. Nobody comes to their aid. They're living on their own. It's now that there is election, they're going to them and telling them that, okay, if you vote for PDP or any other party, we will not give you food stamp, because we have food stamps that they are given in IDP camps, will not cater for you, and so many other threats and intimidation.
Okay, so let me just get this very clearly. Were you and Mr. Umar Al-Khali in the same political party before now?
Well, never. I mean, he, I think, was in the ruling party and picked the NNPP ticket. So we were never in the same party.
Okay. All right. So because, I mean, the narratives, he says Saturday, last elections wasn't straightforward, it wasn't fair. You narrate the same thing. So it's just needed to clarify and sort that out. But let's get back to him now and get his perspective. Ms. Akali, I hope again it's clear now, because I did ask you, why do you want to be governor?
Thank you very much, Chamberlain. I want to be a governor because I want to bring in my contributions to the state. I want to uplift my people from the abject penury they are living in. I want to change the narratives of the Borno governance and the politics, which is being dominated by only one party, and then which is being characterized by nepotism, religious dichotomy, inability of the state government to resettle the so-called IDPs, because I've gone around the whole state and you see IDPs everywhere. The state has always coming out to tell the whole world on air that all the IDPs have been resettled, which is an absolute lie. And I want to make my contributions to make sure that this state has been uplifted and actually should be in the league of the progressive states in Nigeria.
I've also read different candidates in the state talk about this question of nepotism, and I wonder, so how could you shed more light on this? Is it really going on in the state, and how so?
Yeah, actually, it's really going on, actually, and that's the truth, and everyone can testify to that. The present government has no respect for any other ethnicity apart from the major tribe. When you look at the appointments, most of the appointments, 90% actually are given to one particular ethnic tribe. And apart from that too, the dichotomy between that has been established in the religious within the two religions, the Christianity and Islam, is too wide, because the Christians majority or the minority are actually not being recognized and are not given appointments in the states. And these are the issues that we are talking about. There is no unity, and any government that does not provide unity within its states can never stand the test of time. You have to be, you must have to be, as a leader, you must have to be inclusive. You have to bring in inclusion in your governance, and then you have to accept all ethnic tribes and religions whatsoever, and you have to give them a fair sharing. This is actually what we're talking about. When you look at the commissioners in the state, we have about 22 commissioners in Borno State, whereby you have only one Christian or so, which is very unfair. You have about 36 permanent secretaries in the state. What are the numbers of the Christians there? The Christian communities are there too. And how many tribes are that are holding those positions? So these are things that we're talking about. So we have to change that narrative.
Yeah, this kind of narratives or subject can be touchy, but if there are realistic issues, one would expect that they have to be broached. But have you, or alongside others, sought audience or raised such concerns, brought it to the attention of the government, and what did they say if you have?
The issue is that I was from the APC before I moved into the NNPP, and I contest for same position I'm buying for now. I'm contesting for now in 2019, which I lost in the primaries. But the issue is that the government here does not take advice from anybody. They believe that state is a one-party system, and nobody is going to challenge them. Whatever you tell them, they don't listen to you. That's the problem. It's a government that doesn't have an ears to listen to its people. And as a governor, you have to be one of the characteristics of a good leader. You have to be a good listener. And these are the issues. You have only one person running this government in this state, and apart from him, there is nobody. All the commissioners there are just being utopian. They are just cosmetics. They are just there. They have no single contributions, and nobody speaks to him and listens to. And that's the most reason why most of us left the APC and then moved into to form the NNPP, so at least we can be able to change a positive change to our people.
That's why I did ask a question if this kind of matters have been broached. So probably I should have rephrased it. But in other words, you're telling us now that while you, probably alongside others who were in the party before they left, brought up this matter with the governor, or probably with the party, and it wasn't considered. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly, we did. We did that several times. The party wasn't even listening to you. I was in the APC. There was never a day I was even invited for a single stakeholders meeting, simply because of their high-headedness, and they believe that nobody can come out to challenge them. Because anytime when there are elections, they use the government instrument of government cohesion, because they have the security in their hands. They use the instrument of government cohesion to suppress the opponents. That's exactly what's happening in this state. And this is not going to be acceptable again.
A number of people have seen images and footage of the governor previously making the rounds or visiting some places, trying to address security in the state, because we know the challenge that exists in the state and in different parts of the country. What is it that you plan to do to ensure that security becomes history in Borno State?
Certainly, security will become history in the state with a collaboration with the security agencies. I've served in the Nigerian Customs Service for 30 years, which I voluntarily retired and joined politics. I have served as a paramilitary officer, and definitely we have to sit down. We have to sit down with the security agencies to re-strategize the security architecture of the state. We have to bring in the community leaders, the traditional rulers, because community security is not one man's business. It's all inclusive. We have to put our heads together to see that we have to prosper a permanent solution, so that at least we have a security, and then in this state, so that where security of the lives and properties of the citizens will be surely protected.
All right, so we'll come back to Mr. Akali, but our colleagues in Lagos have got some questions. So both of you, gentlemen, go ahead, guys.
Thanks, Chamberlain. Let me just follow up with Mr. Akali quickly before we then go to Abuja studio with Mr. Jajari. You are a customs officer. You worked in customs. I think that's what you were referring to when you said you were paramilitary. Am I correct? Mr. Akali, that's for you, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Yes, so you are in the customs, I believe.
Yes, for 30 years.
For 30 years, I mean, and you retired and got into politics. I'd like to get your...
Voluntarily, yeah.
Yes, I'd like to get your thoughts on securing our borders and ensuring that at least we have a semblance of sanity across those borders, understanding the positioning of Borno State. What are the loopholes you have seen? I know there's always that talk about we have ungoverned spaces, we have unmanned border points and all of that. What are the solutions to that? Because that is at the root of insecurity, terrorism, hearing that, we have this cross-border militia always coming into the country and even finding their way up until the southern part of the country. So is there a thinking for you, if you are voted and you win this contest, is there something, an idea you have that you plan to bring to bear to ensure better coordination, working with the federal government, of course?
Yeah, we have a plan for that, inshallah. Security is not only for the federal government, even the state government inclusive, and I told the regional rulers and the entire community. What we are going to do is that we are going to employ the services of our men, to man the borders, even though the borders are so porous, and we have actually a shortage of manpower, to man all these borders, When you look at the military itself, the entire military is more than it's less than 300,000. And while the customs, I'm sure they are not more than 20,000. So that's the reason why my mentor, my principal, Senator Rabiu Musa Konkozo, was saying that he's going to increase the number of the military and paramilitary forces to at least 1 million, so that at least they can be able to combat those terrorism or those militias that are coming through our borders. This is exactly what he says he's going to do. But in my own case here, what I wanted to do is at the local level here, we have the civilian JTF, which actually has not been structured, has not been given a command structure, which I intended to do. Now, what do? What we want to do is that we are going back to the local government areas and recruit men of integrity, of good character, worthy of to emulate, to bring them into the civilian JTF. What we're going to do is we recruit up to like 200 or 100 people at the first instance. Then we come to we bring them to the police college academy here, police college in Maiduguri, and train them. And then we post them back to their localities, because they are the people that actually knows who lives in that community. So we now actually combine them with the Nigerian police or the civil defense, and then so they can be able to monitor and then see who comes in and who goes out. Then we have to give at least a retired police officer or probably a paramilitary officer who has actually a security background to head that particular organization. Because when you look at now, the civilian JTF is being headed by a civilian who has no security idea or knowledge, and then which cannot actually work effectively. So these are some of the measures that we are going to take, inshallah.
Right. Let me take this question about security, Mr. Jajari, in our Abuja studio, because Borno State, has had that history with terrorism, insecurity, and for a lot of people, that's what they still remember when they hear Borno State. Just recently, we saw that report that about 200 Boko Haram fighters, including women and children, were killed by ISWAP. That's not the usual story you'll hear, but it still speaks to the fact that there's still that challenge of terrorism in Borno State, whether it's between Boko Haram and ISWAP, or this time the civilians are the one at the receiving end. Your background, for a lot of people, well, it's not maybe heavy on security. Maybe you had your time in business and you still do. What is your thinking around security, especially that terrorism aspect? I know you've had your time in the private sector, but particularly now, security. What is your plan?
As a leader, what you need is mostly capable hands. Surround yourself with knowledgeable people that are in that industry. Security is a common knowledge to everyone in Borno State, and you need that knowledge to take care of the security problems. So it's not something that is cannot be solved. You really do not need a security background to solve security problems in Borno State.
So we'd like to get specifics now. I referred to the issue of terrorism. I just talked about that report, and I'm sure you caught that report too. In fact, you had challenges. I remember the last time we had you, or at least that I spoke to you on the show, you were talking about some challenges around campaigning, where you said that there were, I think, civilian JTF or something who were not in uniform that seemed to attack your convoy, to and fro and all of that. So there are still some of those issues, but particularly for terrorism, what assurance would we be getting from you that, these attacks between ISWAP and Boko Haram will not turn, if you're elected, will not turn into Boko Haram, ISWAP now attacking the people? Do you have a plan to curtail that?
Of course, I have said it already. The security challenges we have, we will sit down with our community leaders, because some of these people, we know them. I mean, they are indigenous of Borno, and most of them are even Kanuris. So we sit with the elders, community elders, traditional rulers, to come up with solutions, local solutions on how to get these people repent, and how to reduce the security challenges in the state, and more so work with the national federal government to work on the securities.
Well, Mr. Jajari, I'm more interested in specifics. If you're vying for that seat, you should already have your ideas, clear. Specifically now, as a follow-up to the concern on security, what plans do you have, to ensure that the borders in Borno, and there are quite a number of them, become manned? And then also about the concern of, the entry of small arms and light weapons into, the country through all of these borders. What plans do you have, to check the influx of those?
We will work closely with the theater commander in Borno State. There is a theater commander, Army General, who has all the security apparatus from customs, immigration, police, and army, and all of them that are working to see that there is, these challenges are curtailed. We will work closely with them and the federal government. That is number one. Secondly, most importantly, the local people, the traditional rulers, the community leaders, to reorient our people that this is not the way to go, and to make them repent. We now have in this administration of Zulum, Boko Haram integrated into the communities, into the society, and they're just there. They can even be another threat to our people. So these are what we intend to do when we are elected a governor.
And if you're confident that you can solve this problem, what timeline are you giving, to see results should you become governor?
What we need is the will to do and the commitment to do. Security is a huge challenge, and I don't think something that you can give a timeline to say, I'll fix it within a year or within 6 years or within whatever. But if you put in your best to see that these challenges are resolved, then you'll begin to see results, possibly shorter than anybody can imagine.
I hope that's satisfactory to the people of Borno. Just before I come to you, Mr. Umar, still with Mr. Jajari, you said earlier that it's not true that, all of the IDPs have been settled, that thousands are still, in different parts of the state and have not been resettled. I wonder if you have a figure to it, if you should be interested in the numbers if you're really vying for the seat with all seriousness. Do you have the numbers? And what plans really do you have, to transform Borno from being a civil service state to, a commercial nerve center where the people will truly be self-reliant economically?
I can tell you Borno has arguably the largest IDP camp concentration in Africa. I have gone to local governments, by local governments, the 27, more than maybe 3 or 4 times to each of these localities. And I can tell you that almost 1/3 of Borno populace are in IDP camps. So it's a huge, huge problem. You go and they just by themselves, and it's only when election period comes that the government goes and gives them some tokens and stuff like that. So it's a huge problem.
Now, Mr. Mustafa, let me come to you now. You talked about employing the people as your approach to tackling the problem of security. And the current administration in other states, also in the north, has deployed that particular approach, which threw up, a debate about the constitutionality of carrying weapons. Some states in the Southwest were clamoring for the same right if other states, could have that privilege to do so. I wonder where you are in this and what approach you would deploy as well if you got the opportunity to become governor. Mr. Umar, can you hear me? Mr. Mustafa?
Oh.
That's for you.
My name is Umar. My name is Umar.
Mr. Umar, go ahead. That's for you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Can you come back with your question, because I actually referring the question to Mr. Jajari. Please, can you come back? Can you come over again?
Yes, in your earlier response during your engagement with my colleagues in Abuja, you talked about how you would, employ the people to tackle the problem of security and work with, experienced hands in that regard to head an institution. So if that's your approach to tackling insecurity and the problem of insurgency in Borno State, where are you in the debate about carrying weapons, the need for, such security initiatives, the servicemen to carry weapons to tackle, the problem of banditry and insurgency?
Yeah, thank you very much. What we are going to do is that the security architecture of the state, that I'm saying, the civilian JTF, we have to actually re-strategize it and give it a command structure. I'm not saying I'm going to give them weapons, but I'm going to recruit them and then send them back to their localities, attach them with the civilian JTF who are constitutionally empowered to carry weapons and the police, so that they can be able to be patrolling their localities. That's actually what I'm saying. And secondly, the security, the theater commander, just like my colleague said, Rajajari said, is in charge of the security, the entire security in the Northeast here. And they are doing very well, fantastically very well. Because we've gone around all the local government areas in this state. We've been to Monguno, we've been to Damasak, Bagadoro, anywhere you think we've been to. I've even been to Isge, where they thought that's the enclave of the Boko Haram. But I came out safely without any problem. And we have not actually experienced any attack on the road, throughout our campaigns, and then we have done our campaigns peacefully, and I have to give them their recommendations, and they have done very well, and they're doing very well.
Right. Mr. Jajari, back to you now, and I'm particular about this plan for teachers or workers generally, because education is a major solution, some would say, to insecurity. If people are in school, especially children, that they wouldn't grow up to join, terrorism and what have you. I don't know if this is true, but I have seen that you made a promise regarding what will be paid, particularly to teachers. Just to be clear, is it 100,000 naira as salaries, or do you have plans to increase the salaries of workers? And I'd like to know how you will achieve that the IGR. Yes, IGR has been increasing in Borno State over 10 billion naira, but how would you be able to handle that volume of, monies if you were to increase salaries? That's from Mr. Jajari.
Oh, I thought the question is referred to my colleague.
No,
Come again.
It's for you. This is particularly about your plans for education. I saw somewhere that you may have made a promise to increase salaries to 100,000 naira for teachers. Correct me if I'm wrong, but looks like you have a plan for improved salaries generally. And my question is how you'll be able to sustain that, seeing the IGR of Borno State. Yes, it's been increasing over 10 billion naira, but how would you be able to at least increase IGR sustainably to cater to such wage bill?
Right now, the problem we have in Borno State is not even salary increment. People are not even getting salaries. People are not getting allowances. People are not getting pension, you know? So my program will be more of paying their salaries as at when due. They're getting their pension as at when due. And when we have enough over time, possibly we'll also look at the increment of salaries.
Do you know why people are not getting, I mean, this is your allegation that people are not getting paid. I imagine that, you know, as somebody who also wants to unseat the current governor, you would know why that is.
I mean, there is huge corruption in Borno State Civil Service, and they have so many techniques of using ways of not paying salaries, or even after retirement, you get 1 month, 2 months pension in advance or whatever, and then they stop completely. We have pleas of civil servants in Borno State. I can tell you, most of our supporters are from civil service in Borno State.
So when you say there's corruption in civil service, is that who's perpetrating that? The civil servants or who?
The state government. The state government.
So the state government is what? Withholding the monies that come in perhaps via allocation, and through the taxes they're collecting.
Are you aware that there are people that are receiving 7,000 salary in Borno State right now? 7,000. I can have you text alerts, messages that people receiving 7,000.
Okay, so those are two different issues. If people are underpaid or not paid up to the current minimum wage,
yes,
that is certainly unlawful, and that is an issue.
Yes.
But whether they are getting paid that is another question entirely.
That is what I'm saying.
Clarify. Is it that they are not getting paid at all, or that they're underpaid?
So both are happening in Borno State. Okay. They are underpaid, and sometimes they don't even get the salaries. And pension doesn't even happen. 50% or more of Borno civil servant retirees are not getting their pensions. Okay.
So let me confirm this, because I also heard you when my colleague asked a question earlier. You talked about how Boko Haram have now been, you know, allowed to mix with the people in Borno State. I imagine that you're referring to Operation Safe Corridor. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. That was also something that was implemented by the Nigerian army. In other words, you're not in support of the particular policy.
I am in support of that, but, you know, integration of Boko Haram into society should be in different steps, should be in different layers. You can't just bring someone and keep him in a camp, no training, no orientation, nothing. And after 5 months or 2 months or 3 months, and you say you're integrating him into society. How is that? And in some cases where I have personally seen, they are even armed. Well, they say they're arming them to sort of protect people against their former colleagues, Boko Haram. But I mean, these are things that really requires us to look at and see if that is something that we want to continue or something that need to be revisited.
All right, so Mr. Umar Mustafa, we have to thank you for coming on the program today. Thank you for your time and all the best to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so listen, now actually looking at the last results from these last elections, on paper, from that result, this contest is actually appears to be between the APC and the PDP. You garnering about 41%, and that's a strong showing for the PDP. But that's at the presidential level. But at the state level, we know the dynamics should be different. Now, do you think that you've been able to get your way in and around the people in the state to ensure that this kind of showing you even surpass this? And then if that were the case, the economy in Borno State is a huge challenge. You have to approach that, because at the end of the day, without the economy being stable and people having a job to do, they will turn, possibly.
Yes.
How do you plan to approach that?
I am very sure that the gubernatorial election will surpass the results we have seen in presidential election. I'm very positive about that. Even the presidential election, the votes were manipulated. If not because of manipulation, that 54% should have been our number, not their numbers. And in gubernatorial, is even going to be more, because the people in the state, their problem is with the governor and how he governs the state.
So perhaps I should even have started asking you, so why did you decide to leave what you were doing and then come into Borno politics? Are you satisfied that you took the right decision?
It's a right decision. I mean, we cannot always sit on the side and be complaining that things are not going well. Things have to be better. Someone has to come and sacrifice whatever he's doing and focus on getting that seat, because I actually feel I could do better than what is obtained right now.
You did, because I think the last time we spoke to you, you complained about there were incidents of security concerning campaigns, your campaigns as well, and it's not over yet, because some of the narratives we see, you also have raised concerns about how the process has gone. For lots of young people who are watching, who perhaps just came into the process, they could be frustrated, having seen what they did, especially if they had a good job, they leave it and come into politics. What would you tell those kind of people, considering the stage that you're in now, what you're about to get into, if they were to take a major decision moving forward?
I mean, that is all about leadership. You have to be courageous. You have to be decisive. You have to be visionary. And that comes with a price. And the price, is the uncertainty of how you will be challenged throughout the process. So be it.
But for this weekend now, having seen the way the elections went last time, many were disappointed because they wanted to see some results upload. That didn't happen. Politicians, I think your party too, speaking loudly about that. What do you expect this Saturday? Do you have any assurances or confidence?
What I have done, because most people in my state and in so many other states feel that this election, the last election, was rigged. And so many people don't even have the courage to come out and vote again. But what I have been doing, I didn't sit back. Since the announcement, I've been going out reassuring people that, look, come out. The next one will be better. Come out. The next one will be better. Have faith in the process. And this is what I've been doing. I've gone round the state immediately after the election. I was just coming from Biu yesterday, and I'm returning today to have my rally in Maiduguri. What people need to hear is the word of encouragement. There were even some speculations in my state that I have abandoned the race, I'm not running again, and all that. And I'm coming out and debunk all these rumors that, look, I am strongly contesting still, and I believe I'm going to win.
Okay, so just to clarify, with the IDPs, I know that there has been an attempt to try and get people to relocate to their homes. In some instances, people have refused. People have, sometimes they take the money, sometimes they don't. I know that some funds were provided. I'm not able to verify in whether this was in all cases, but we do know that there have been attempts to do that. How do you intend? Because you still say that quite a significant number of people are still in IDP camps. How do you intend to encourage people to leave those camps and go back to their lives?
First and foremost, security is the key. We have seen where people have relocated back to their communities. And then a few days after, Boko Haram came and shuttered the whole place. Security is number one. When people feel safe and secure, then you can live anywhere. And without having a proper security arrangement and safety, I'll not even think of relocating people.
So in your own opinion, would you say that the security situation in Borno is not sufficient for people to go back to their homes?
It's improving, but it's not sufficient enough.
All right. We do thank you for coming on, and we wish you all the best in these elections this time around, hoping that elections will go as everyone expects it to go in terms of the process. Muhammad Jujari, governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
We will be going to Ebonyi State in just a moment. Don't go away. All right, welcome back. Yes, indeed, Dr. Ifeanyi Odi joins us next. He is the governorship candidate for the People's Democratic Party in Ebonyi State. He joins us virtually. Let's turn to him now. Good morning, Dr. Odi. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your patience on the program today.
Thank you very much,
for this Saturday, for this Saturday, you can't afford any mistakes, as I did with your surname initially. So you're putting all on the line this weekend. You're facing a ruling party in the state, and you know how it is in this climb, how they tend to deploy anything to ensure that they don't vacate that seat. How do you think you can upstage the ruling party to win that particular position?
Thank you very much. Well, for me, I'm running under the platform of People's Democratic Party. Ebonyi State has always been a PDP state. The people of Ebonyi State have always have so much strong belief and love for PDP. And for me, that makes it a lot easier for our victory by a special grace of God.
But Dr. D, looking through the states, in terms of infrastructural development, roads, for instance, I mean, many have spoken about how they think the governor has put up quite a showing with the construction of the roads, infrastructure development, and it will be a challenge for anyone coming up against the party, the ruling party, with their plans and programs. Do you think you sufficiently sold yourself, or what kind of programs do you intend to come up with, if you can hear me, to ensure that the people are able to look away from the ruling party and then give the PDP a chance, even though you say it's always been a PDP state? What kind of programs do you think you have that will vote you in? Can you still hear me, Dr. Odi? Okay, I think he lost us there, so I think that's why. All right, well, we'll double check with that. And okay, can you hear me now? Okay, I was talking about infrastructure development. There are many who will say that they've seen quite a showing on the part of the governor, so that will supposedly benefit the ruling party, depends on how the pendulum swings this Saturday. What programs do you have that will make people look the way of the PDP as against the APC?
Well, first, I'll think about the well-being of the people. If you check, the MBS, their recent rating, it tells you that Ebonyi State is one of the poorest states in the nation. Any infrastructural development that has nothing to do with the people at the moment, require to be examined proper. The first thing for me, which we are preaching to our people, is the well-being of the people, how to put our people out of poverty, how to create job opportunities for the teeming youth of Ebonyi State. Many of them have graduated from universities, but there's no job. In Ebonyi State, you cannot boast of one single industry, but then we have so many flyovers with less vehicles applying the flyovers. We are building airports when almost 85 to 90% of Ebonians cannot afford to buy a flight ticket to fly into that airport. So the first thing is to go and, to go into Ebonyi State with the mindset of creating job opportunities for our people, and then taking care of the welfare of the civil servants, the teachers, and so on and so forth.
But those infrastructural developments, isn't it what investors will look to see, which will encourage them to come into the state? Maybe you should talk to us about what you plan to do with attracting investment to the state.
Well, today, Ebonyi State is rated or ranked one of the most difficult states to do business in the country. So if Ebonyi State, with the number of infrastructure development, has still been ranked as one of the most difficult states, for ease of doing business, it means that we have to examine it proper. First thing is the people. The intention matters so much. So for me, our programs will be revolving around the people, the well-being of the people, like I mentioned, developing, an accelerated economic development in Ebonyi State. So that is one of the basic agenda of our government, by special grace of God.
Okay, well, you have said that one of the things that will pave a way for you will be the fact that Ebonyi has always been a PDP state. But we saw what happened in the Southeast in the presidential elections and how a new party, a relatively new party, swept, almost all of the polls in the Southeast, including Ebonyi State. So, I mean, considering the fact that this party used to be a part of the PDP. Well, not the party itself now, but the candidates who ran on the platform of the Labour Party used to be a part of the PDP. How do you think that would influence voters who might now think that they have another choice apart from, say, the APC and PDP in Ebonyi?
Well, for me, the Nigeria, electoral system and the voters today is going outside partisan to a larger extent to individuals, whereby you begin to check the pedigrees and antecedents of who is emerging. So Labour Party is there. I think Labour Party did well in Ebonyi State just because of this movement of a thing. But then I choose my personal name, which is Ifeanyi Chukwumodi. It's a very strong brand too in Ebonyi State. If you carry out an investigation about me in the last 18 years, I have represented the poor people of Ebonyi State very well in trying to support them in my little way with, my private resources. So for me, today in Ebonyi State, though we are not having any Labour Party candidates, of course, yesterday, P2B was on the air. They announced that they will support candidates that actually have what to offer to the people. And I think I choose myself. I have a lot to offer to our people. I've supported our people, to so many areas, in infrastructural development, in rural areas, supporting the farmers, supporting the students to go back to school, and so many things that we've been able to do. And then coupled with the fact that Ebonyi State, like I've mentioned, that the old women and the old men, the young ones, they believe so much in PDP. So PDP is already it's a brand. They don't want to let go so easy. Okay, well, we'll see how that pans out for you on Saturday, but my colleagues have questions for you. Over now to you.
Well, thank you, Mawbe. I mean, when you talk about the brand of a PDP, well, we know how the Southeast voted for the presidential, but even for the National Assembly, the PDP was only able to get one seat out of the 9 obtainable across the Senate and the House of Representatives. The APC got 6, got all the 3 senatorial seats and got even 3 from the House of Representatives. So there'll be questions as to just how acceptable that brand is. But when a lot of people hear Ebonyi State, they remember Ebonyi rice, for example. They remember the people of Ebonyi who are very entrepreneurial. And I wonder how you plan to bring all of that together and make Ebonyi very prominent on the map. Well, I know that there are even questions about support from within your party, how you emerge eventually, whether you have support of all of those big players within your party. But speak to the economy of Ebonyi State. What is your plan really to maybe improve, perhaps, upon what this government has done? Well, sorry, I lost at the beginning, but
the little part where I heard you speaking, my answer to that first, like I've mentioned earlier, that first thing we want to do is to create policies that will be beneficial to the people of Ebonyi State, and then to the people of the Southeast and Nigeria as a whole. So first thing for us is to create an enabling environment that will enable investors to come into Ebonyi State.
How do you mean create an enabling environment? I mean, I don't want to give you ideas here, but yes. What exactly do you mean? I will have given examples, but go ahead, please.
Okay. Well, first thing is the policies of the government, the agendas of the government. If you have good policies, you could attract a lot of investment into your state. First, Ebonyi State, we are almost 80% farmers, and farmers all over the world are not doing badly, because today, if you go to the US, go to other countries, Vietnam, and so on and so forth, you see they are doing very well, the farmers. And when we have arable land, our people are farmers and they are very hardworking. So for me, it's just to come up with policies that will enable good partnership with private sectors to come in and drive this agricultural sector very well. So there are a whole lot of things where we think to drive in. Ebonyi has, White Beach, sand, which is Ndibe Beach. So we intend to invest massively on tourism. And of course, I'm somebody who likes creative industry. So we have a lot of talented Ebonians, which we intend to bring back home, and then they'll be able to, they have a lot of potentials in them, including the ones who live in Ebonyi State. So there are a whole lot of areas where we think we are going to do a whole lot. And then our infrastructure development, we go about investing on industrial clusters and so on and so forth. So doing that, developing rural areas, we're able to connect the farmers, with motorable road and all, give them access to their farmland and so on and so forth. So there are good policies which I think, God willing, by the time we emerge, if we're able to implement them, which I'm sure we're going to implement them, then the people of Ebonyi State will begin to see the impact.
Well, Mr. Odi, if you can just take this in 1 minute, we're totally out of time. There's been political assassinations, days to the elections, two on my count now. Are you worried that this could significantly impact on voter turnout on election day? And relatedly, if you're elected, how do you intend to approach this continuing unrest in the Southeast?
For me, my manifesto, is part of it, the security. I want to address security from the grassroots. I want to go down to the people because they are our sons and they are our people. We know them by special grace of God. We'll go and meet them and discuss way forward. For me, the assassination, which is very, very, is on the high rise at the moment, might be a plan by the so-called whoever, to keep the people, the voters away from the coming out to vote. But one thing I'm assuring Ebonians is that it's time for us to recover our state back to the people. They should not be scared, neither should they be deterred. We should come out in mass to vote for the candidate of their choice. And whoever they win should take it that maybe I will win to become the governor of Ebonyi State, not the governor of a political party. If God gives me the victory, I'm not going to be governor of a PDP. I'll be the governor for the whole state. And I will govern my state well, So mine is, the security aspect is as a result of, so many number of youths without job, which part of the policy of our government is to get this youth back and to give them proper orientation, educate them on the need to quit any kind of crime or social vices, and they give them proper education, And then with doing that, I think in the state we have peace. And secondly, the local government system at the moment is almost at, is dead. So we intend to allow the local government system to have their full autonomy so that they can address the issue of insecurity from the grassroots.
Just one more thing before you go, Dr. D. Do you have enough assurances from the commission that this Saturday all will be well with the BVAS and uploading the results, the process, basically?
Well, we've been talking to them, we've been begging, we've been asking them they should allow Nigerians to recover Nigeria for Nigerian people. The only thing they owe Nigeria is allow us to be able to vote for whoever that we choose to be our leader. And that is the highest thing the INEC, the commission need to do to Nigerian people. And most especially Ebonyi State. You know, Ebonyi State needs good governance. They need good leader. They need somebody who have the competence, the capacity, the credibility to govern Ebonyi State.
All right.
What is happening in Ebonyi State today, it is not something to write home about. We have a lot of issues resulting from communal crisis here and there. It's difficult for any zone you go in Ebonyi State, you will not be witnessing communal crisis. So many people today, only in Ebonyi State, you have people living in IDP camp, living in thousands of people for almost years, and it's been underreported. Nobody's talking about them. So for me, the Ebonians are hungry for good governance, and that is why we're begging INEC. They're the highest thing they need to give back the Ebonians. Okay. Is allow them to choose their leader this weekend. All
right, then, Dr. Ifeanyi Odi, popularly called Anyi Chuks, governorship candidate for the PDP. Thank you for coming on today, and all the best to you.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Thank you, Mokbe.
All right, then. All right, so that is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. We appreciate your mails, actually, but we'll find time to take them. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain, so have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you for your feedback. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
From this side, we say thank you for watching as well. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
Well, this side is Lagos, in case you're wondering. Have a fantastic day ahead. Goodbye.